Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've watched a previous video. In this video I'm going to talk about my reading stats so far this year, and I'm also going to talk about the progress I've made toward my goals for the year. I know this is typically done after the first quarter, but since I didn't do them at that point and it's now 1/3 of the way into the year, I'm going to do it for my stats 1/3 of the way into the year. I'm not going to beat myself up for falling short on my goals, but I would like to accomplish them by the end of the year. My book and page goals for the year are 90 books completed and 26,000 pages read. At the end of 1/3 of the year, I've completed 24 books and 7,585 pages. That leaves me 6 books and 1,082 pages behind schedule. The biggest reason for falling behind is that in February I didn't really have a very good month. I only completed 3 books and read 1,459 pages. Also around the beginning of February I added a hours goals for hours listening to audiobooks. My goal was 100 hours. So far this year I've listened to 16.5 hours, and that leaves me 16.83 hours behind schedule for the year. Early in the year I established a goal to read 40 physical books that I already own. I picked out the 40 books, and I'm doing very poorly on this. So far this year I've only read one of the books, The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I have to do a lot better on this goal for the remainder of the year. Another thing I did early in the year was that I established a goal of reading books from 6 countries that I'd never read from before. I picked out 2 books from each country, and I've read one. I've read a book from Mexico. I read Meridian by Silvia and Moreno-Garcia. I actually feel pretty good about this goal. I think I will achieve this one. And I may, if I happen to read books from countries besides these that I hadn't previously read books from, I might actually exceed my 6 countries. There's some other challenges I took on this year that I'm not really going to talk about here, except to say I decided to do a Storathon 2024. There is a Star Trek challenge I'm going to take part in. I just have to come up with some books for that one, and I'll post a video for that when I do. And in May, as I said in my previous video, I like to read 8 books from Asian American authors that I own physical copies of. That may bleed into June, but not really going to talk about those goals here, but those are some other goals that I've established for this year. Now I'm going to talk about some other data that Storygraph shows. And for things like this, and when I talked about the page counts and audiobook hours and stuff like that, I will post the graphs from Storygraph. Storygraph shows that my top moods are mysterious, adventurous, emotional, dark, intense. Those do seem to be true about the books that I read. And for the page number sizes of the books that I've read, Storygraph shows that 50% of the books I've read are 300 to 499 pages, 45% are less than 300 pages, and 5% are 500 plus pages. This shows that the books I'm reading this year are a little longer than in the first 2 years that I started on Storygraph. Storygraph shows that the audiobook length is 100% less than 8 hours. As I've only listened to 2 audiobooks, this is a pretty small sample size. The fiction-nonfiction graph of Storygraph shows that I read 75% fiction books and 25% nonfiction books. And I certainly do know that I read way more fiction books than nonfiction books. My top 5 genres are fantasy, young adult, science, and contemporary. And there are 5 categories tied for 5th. I guess the most surprising thing from this is what's not there. There's not one classic book. In 2022 and 2023, I read a lot of classic books, especially 2023. I did read one classic book in 2024, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I didn't record it in Storygraph because I had read it in 2023 and I rated it then, so that book doesn't show up, but it still shows that I'm really backed away from reading classic books this year. The format is 54% digital, 38% print, and 8% audio. I'm actually surprised I read as many physical books as this indicates, because between my Kindle, my Nook, reading on Libby, and Hoopla, it seems to me like I'm reading way more ebooks, but I guess it's good that I'm reading a fair amount of physical books too. My most read authors are Elizabeth Acevedo and David Darling at 2 books apiece. This is a bit deceptive because in both cases I listened to an audiobook while reading a ebook and physical book respectively. So I didn't really read 2 totally separate books from each of these authors. I read the same book in 2 ways at the same time. All the books I've read so far this year are in English. Not surprising. At some point I'd like to give a try to a book in Spanish. I have tried to study Spanish somewhat, and I'd like to read a book in Spanish at some point, recognizing that my comprehension probably won't be remotely what it was in English, but it might be interesting to give it a try. I'm just going to include a graph here that shows the books read per month this year, pages read per month this year, and audiobook hours listened to this year. Now I'm going to talk about my book ratings for the year. My average rating was 4.14. I had a low of 2.0 star rating and a high of 5.0 star ratings. It's no surprise that my average is pretty high. I'm not a super critical person. And although I don't always put a lot of thought into books I buy or borrow, I do at least expect to like them. I don't hate read a book. I don't pick up a book because I think I'm not going to like it, just to make fun of it. And I also don't let others pick my books for me. So it's not surprising that I'm going to like most of the books that I read. I'd be interested to hear how your year in reading's going, what progress you're making towards your goals if you've established them. Are you ahead or behind of your goals? Please reply in the comments if you would like. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe. Hope you have a wonderful day.